So much so that many other regional prime ministers currently, like Ralph Gonsalves, adored Robert Bratch. So I think this is something that we ought to really consider
Yes.
in terms of looking for role models about how we debunked theories,
And our belief in ourselves.
Indeed.
And how and leadership, especially youth, because you're here teaching me as a substantially a little bit younger person about things about Robert Bradshaw that I didn't know. And I think sometimes we don't always value the contribution of you. You want to say something to that?
No, I was just thinking earlier, you said that sometimes because we didn't have a particular struggle, it's hard for us to identify with it. And I think sometimes that's something that young people today in St. Kitts and Nevis in particular struggle with. For example, they cannot identify with the struggles of our grandparents. And that's why there's this theory, this notion that people are voting because of their grandparents, because of their families and that sort of thing. It was just a couple of days ago I had a conversation with a young man who said he wanted to speak to somebody who is Labour. And we had this conversation and he put the question to me, why are you voting for Labour? He said, I bet you come from a Labour family. Well, that's true. I did come from a Labour family. But the good thing about it is that I think I'm a very independent thinker and that I'm able to rationalize and understand when policies are put in place that benefit the majority of people and create opportunities for the majority of people. I may have been one of the first persons in my immediate family to go off to university. It is not because the others who are older than me did not have the intellectual abilities, but the opportunity simply wasn't there. My parents are wonderful parents. They're both intelligent. And sometimes I wonder, why didn't they get the same opportunity as me? But that's because they grew up in an era where there weren't policies that catered to people who came from the working class. And so I had to tell this young man, I am so grateful for the policies that were put in place that my parents could have been in a position to get financial assistance and send me off to a very prestigious college and put me where I am today. And so that is one of the main reasons why I support the Labour Party and the policies of the Labour Party, because just as Robert Bradshaw, these same ideals transcended beyond those times and are beneficial to me today and will be beneficial to my daughter in the future, because I am so grateful that I've been able to be college educated and now I'm able to pass on this education to other children who I deal with daily. And so that's one of the main things that I appreciate of the St. Kitts-Nevis Labour Party and one of the main reasons why I continue to support them today.
I'm glad you brought that perspective and that you spoke about education, because you're even speaking about education at a post-secondary level. And I think that we forget in St. Kitts that there are a lot of other islands that still have common entrance. There are still children, in St. Kitts it used to be a privilege to be able to get on past primary school. Right. A lot of people weren't able. When I first came to St. Kitts, that's when Washi just had turned over from junior high. And we had all these young men that were just laboring in the system, waiting to come over. And that had been the way that it had been for, a while, waiting to come over. And even then, I thought, why did they wait? And they said, now, you have a right to stay in school until you're 16 years old.
No, you have a right to stay in school until you're finished.
Until you're finished, right. So you have a right to stay in school until you're finished. But before that, you didn't even, going to school was a decision that a principal made, like who got to come to school. And a lot of children who didn't have money and opportunity weren't able to have school, so that would just continue the cycle of poverty in their families, and that means just like after one generation after another, and that in itself is unreasonable. And then I remember the teen mothers, and I remember that when I first moved to St. Kitts, and I've been living in St. 21 years, maybe 22 now, teen mothers couldn't go back to school. It was not a it was not a right. It was a policy that principals kind of decided this one can go, that one has potential, that one doesn't. And I remember because I came and I used to volunteer at Gender. My mom was director and Asim was the minister. That's how long ago it was. I tell him my age. And I remember the first teen mother to go back to school was Phyllis Hodge. I don't know if anybody remembers Phyllis Hodge. If you're out there, Phyllis, very successful, works over there at Park Hyatt. And she was Phyllis Hodge, and she just wanted to go back to school. She felt it was her right. And I remember her, she was like really like strong young woman with this voice, like, no, I have a right. I made a mistake, but I have a right to go back to school. And I remember the law changing and being a part of that. And then also, you know, the programs that came in place to support it. So it wasn't just then that the law changed, then you had Project Viola. Right. To support teen mothers in the school. And I think now when we have teen mothers going back to school and they get repeated or they get a chance to come back to school or there's programs like Project Viola, we forget that those projects came under labor. And that before, that was a privilege you didn't have. So if you were a teen mother and you got pregnant, that ended your opportunity, you know? And on top of it, if you were, I believe, if you were a teen mother, you got pregnant and ended your opportunity. So even simple things like that we can take for granted are privileges that generations that are still alive didn't actually enjoy. So I'm so glad you brought that perspective about college, and now we're talking even of high school and primary school and the value of education. But let's come to the present. So let's go to the college, okay? So did you go, tell me, did you go to college here locally?
I did. I did the law program at CFPC.
Yes. You did the law program at CFPC. And when you attended, so one of the things that, oh, I understand. Okay, so one of the issues that, one of the issues, sorry, we were just having some technical issues, but we've worked it out now. One of the challenges when we talk about education is access. Access. And I know we talk to a lot of young people doing consultations because, you know, Labor's been doing consultations now for a few years. One of the big issues was access to education. And one of the big issues was access through scholarships to education and for training for young people to get training and to develop skills, not just technical skills, but also life skills. And a lot of those programs, HFLE, a lot of the technical programs, the strengthening programs at AVAC, a lot of those came through labor as well. So I think that sometimes people think that labor people always think everything was done by labor. I know, I'm gonna argue to it because I'm gonna say, like, I grew up in North America, and in North America, like, I came here when I was a teenager. And I remember we never really felt proud of anything because we were black children and we were mostly surrounded by white children in the school. So you were always like the minority, you know? And I remember once having this black history professor, and he started to talk to about all the things that black people had invented. I didn't even know that black people at the time had invented everything from the traffic light to insulin to like everything, mathematics, all the things we think we're not good at, but we actually invented. And I remember thinking it has to be a trick, like that we're not given the information, so we're not proud of where we came from. And like, it has to be a trick. It's not by accident that I don't know this information. It has to be on purpose. So we're here today not to say labor created everything, because a lot of people have a contribution to the country. It doesn't matter if it's what political party. We all have a right to contribute to our country. But the history of the country is very much based on the workers, the union, the trade union, and the work of the pioneers of labor. So that's all we're highlighting, not taking away from the history. We just want everybody to remember the privileges that we have, where we came from, and now we're going to talk about where we're going. Okay. So I'm sitting here, and I'm actually quite excited. When I sat down here this evening, we have a few areas in terms of policies, but when I sat down here this evening, I sat down in front of this covenant. Had you seen this covenant? Of course you did. If there was like a rule, I'd be the one that never has the information. And I thought, oh, I'd never seen this covenant before, which is signed by all, of course, of all of the representatives. And it makes some promises on the covenant. For those of you who haven't seen the covenant, I'm going to read the covenant to you. The St. Kitts-Nevis Labour Party administration will, so as we go through each, we'll discuss them, build a strong and vibrant economy capable of generating high levels of growth while exploring and expanding into new frontiers for economic development. That kind of makes me think of where we were going with our CBI program. Yeah. And how St. Kitts became a pioneer for CBI throughout the region. Yeah, because, you know, I think a lot of people don't know that when St. Kitts picked up CBI, everywhere else was letting it go. And Dr. Douglas actually went and made a very passionate plea to a set of investors who in turn brought all of their clients and companies to St. Kitts, and we really benefited from that boom. So when I hear everybody talking about all the surpluses and all the money, I think that when we criticize the CBI program, that we have to remember that it was the program that got us out of intense debt. I remember being young, thinking, how are we ever going to get out of this debt? And really was leading us into a vision for a luxury tourism economy. You know, we had a vision, we were leading the region. So I think that promise is something that we've seen already, the strong and vibrant economy and the high levels of growth in more areas than just tourism.
And I must say that when we compare ourselves to, you know, other Caribbean countries, we must say that we are blessed. We must remember that we are developing countries, you know, small population, not much resources. And so it is inescapable that we are going to have high levels of debt because we must take loans in order to develop our country. Labour did that, and we were successful in cutting down the debt. And there was one policy in particular that I think it was very controversial, the land for debt swap. Remember that?
Yes, I did hear about that. I don't think a lot of people really understand what that means. And there's a lot of misinformation about it.
Right.
Explain.
So really, to help to pay the debt, the administration offered land, you know, to cut down on the debt. And in my view, that if the land for debt swap did not come under Labour, we would have been in an economic abyss, economic ruin with this COVID-19 situation. If you look at Jamaica or St. Lucia, who had problems paying their civil servants last month. And so we are blessed because we don't have to take any loans as a result. So it was, while we know many are riding on the wave of, oh, how we are doing good, you know, other countries are this, we have to give credence to the St. Kitts-Nevis Labour Party for this policy in particular and for the CBI. Because of this vision, we can, you know, basically be loan-free in this COVID-19 situation for the country, and we must give thanks to the Labour Party for it. I don't think that many people, you know, understand, you know, the momentum, you know, the whole importance of this policy, really, and I must say that I give credence to the party for that.
All right, excellent. Delivering bold, innovative, and responsive government that puts people first and that is results-oriented. That's pretty straightforward. I think we all know what that means. We want to get the work done. I find a lot of times we just move the stuff around. We shouldn't be at the same place where we begin at the end. Deliver government that sees every problem through the lens of innovation and that will find creative means to turn outside-the-box ideas into reality. Now, this one makes me think of the young people. What I've noticed in this last, in this season, I'll have to say in this season, is how much the young people have been giving their input into the party. Now, you know, I have a bit of a youth bias. So, you know, anytime I'm always like, oh, what are the young people doing? But like yesterday, did you watch the youth virtual meeting?
Yeah.
I was like, listen, okay, now you guys did a great job. All of you did a great job. Okay, I'm a little biased again. The women were killing it. You know, and it made me so excited for the future of the party to see the young people, even speaking to you and speaking to the, and they're so passionate about, oh, it happens. The vision and the passion and the eloquence. It wasn't like they were up there delivering like what they saw on the paper. Like you could see that they felt passionately about it. And to see that, I feel like a lot of the out-of-the-box ideas are going to start coming from our youth because, that's the bridge. There's the older generation. They have the governance. They have the party's been there. It's well established. They have a way of doing things. And now the next generation has come up and they're like, yeah, that's great. But look, this is a way we think we could have improved some of the things that we were doing. And so will you listen to us? And then this is the responsiveness. So I'm excited to see a lot of the out-of-the-box ideas because I know a lot of them came from youth,
Right.
And
I must say that the party has been very receptive to the input of young people. And, I must say that we should congratulate the party on that.
Yeah.
They have been very acceptive. They have, they listen to young people. And this has been over the years, and so I'm very much impressed with the St. Kitts-Nevis Labour Party on that.
I'm also impressed with the young people because, I actually sit in a few of the youth groups because I like those ones. They have all the tea. They got the best memes. Okay, they have the best memes. That's almost my favorite part of election season, the memes. They're just so, I have to believe it's young people because they're so fast. Like, it's like you blink and there's a meme, Like for me, I lost my train of thought, got excited with the meme.
But Naima, in terms of being innovative,
Yes.
I think the party was certainly on track and had a vision that I believe would have taken us through these times seamlessly, especially with the one-to-one laptop program that was
Yes.
introduced some years ago. Perhaps the government did not envisage that we would be going through a pandemic today. But if this program had still been implemented and running the way it was intended, our children would not be out of school for in excess of maybe a month or so without any proper sessions in terms of academic sessions. And I was really excited, and I'm even more excited now because I know that many persons are looking forward to the restart of this program, the restart of their children being able to progress with the technological advancements that we're seeing all around. I mean, my daughter is so fortunate she gets to continue school completely online, and I just wish that this leveled playing field was there for everybody to experience.
Yes.
And the innovation had already been there. It's so unfortunate that we had to take a break, but sometimes we need a break and we just reboot and continue again. So I'm really, that's one of the things I'm really looking forward to with respect to innovation. I hope that our education system can become more technologically involved, because that's the way we're going today. Listen, I saw a kid, maybe 2 years old, just effortlessly using an iPad. And it's a reality that we have to accept, that technology is going to make the world, we say money make the world go around, but technology is making the world go around. Without technology today, I don't think we can function.
We wouldn't be here right now.
We wouldn't be here right now, exactly. And so innovation, thinking outside of the box, this is all part of the NextGenSkn vision. And so I am hopeful that the people can see this, feel this vision, and know that this is the path that we need to take going forward.
Yes, and that's evidenced. As Savannah was saying, this is a program that existed. I remember when that program came and there was a lot of criticism, which I never really understood. I thought, isn't it great for the kids to have a computer? And we don't always do everything perfect the first time, but we learn from our lessons. And it was so forward thinking. It really was ahead of its time.
It was ahead of its time. I mean, had we had those laptops today, we could easily just click off a finger and school would continue.
Overcome the crisis that we're in now.
Yes.
But I must say, with the one-to-one laptop program, I was first in line.
Were you?
I was first in line. And that helped me tremendously during high school. And I'm very grateful to Dr. Douglas for that, for that opportunity, that level playing field. I'm very, very grateful for that.
Okay, and now we've learned also some lessons moving forward, and I'm sure that as it was an innovation that came before its time, that the next level of innovation is going to be exciting. Yes. I'm waiting to see what's going to be next. You know, like we already did the laptop. What are we going to be? We're into the tablets. Are we going to get self on tablets? You know, that's how I see the vision, you know.
And I think too that it's important to be proactive. I don't like being in a reactive state at all. I like to be proactive, and I think that the vision of Labour then was so proactive. And as you said, you're so excited, but I'm even more excited to see what's going to come next. I hope that we can have platforms across all schools where the children can have continuous learning. I mean, maybe this can even open up the conversation of looking at our education curriculum, including other subject areas. I want to see innovation in that area.
Yes.
We must accept that it's not every child is going to be academically inclined.
No.
There are children who are going to be more skills-based. And I believe that the NextGenSkn team is going to bring about this type of reform that we so need in our education system. That will provide more opportunities for our young people. We don't have to just keep them on the traditional path of becoming academics. We have to recognize that it's not every child is going to be an academic. I speak a lot about my daughter, but I've accepted that she may just become an artist. Like every day she draws something.
Which is a fantastic opportunity
and
too.
I would like to see more arts being explored in the schools.
More arts and culture.
Be it visual arts, performing arts. I would love to see more of this. And I just have this gut feeling that the NextGen team is going to provide that for our people. They started the vision, and I think they're going to finish it and continue it.
I must put a plug in here for our renowned teacher and candidate, Dr. Jeffrey Hanley.
Okay.
Because I am confident that when Dr. Hanley becomes a Minister of Education, our education system will be reformed. And the next gen and the innovation and the technology that we are speaking about now will be implemented, and I just can't wait.
Certainly, we saw so much improvement at the Bronte Welsh.
Indeed.
Him being principal there for just a short time.
They just kept beating us up at football. I can't take the licks, man. Bronte Welsh.
So much has improved.
It really did.
I come into contact with so many of the parents, and you know, they always speak highly of Dr. Hanley and the impact he's had on their lives. I mean, the school was small, but they were taller. Their uniform was just impeccable, and this was because of his vision. He made them feel purposeful. He made them feel like, yes, it's okay that you're not part of the Bastia area or one of the largest schools, but you can be anything that you want to be. He created that level playing field of opportunities for his students at Bronte Welsh, and that's why I am so eager for him to be part of a cabinet that I believe will transcend the bounds of limiting our children, but rather thinking outside of the box.
You know what? It reminds me of Bronte Welsh. As I was saying, they gave us a lot of licks. My son, as you know, goes to Sky, and we had a good football team, but you just don't beat Bronte Welsh. And it wasn't so much the children out there. When we went to go to play, all the parents were there. All the parents showed up, the mothers, the fathers, they came together from work, they sat, they cheered on their kids. What I remember from that is a sense of community. And I think that's something that we've moved away from. And we need to come back to taking care of each other and strengthening our communities so that we can help ourselves. You know, instead of just waiting for people to help us, that people empower us to help ourselves. And that's what I felt in that environment, that school, like if something happened to any one of those children, that every one of those parents would come together. And I think that that's how we want to see our nation. If something happened to any one of us, that everybody would come together to protect us. Which brings me into our next area, which is we're looking at the area of achieve better balance in the involvement of women and youth in nation building. So it brings us to the topic of our most vulnerable citizens, women, and youth. Both the promise of the country. It's hard. My son said to me the other day, "Mommy, you know, it must be really hard to be a black woman."
Oh, gosh.
I thought, really? And then I thought, you know, he's doing a project on the 1950s, and he thought, it's hard to be black, but it was hard, you know? And even for our youth now, I see a lot of criticism going around talking about young people taking money to vote, and, you know, and even though people see it like that, and I see the criticism, I understand what they're saying, I also think of it in terms of opportunity. You know, I think about it in terms of example. Yeah? So if you were a young person and the example was given to you that if I give you this, then you get this, then why wouldn't you follow that example? So how do we criticize the young people? Where is the money coming from? You know, why is it there not opportunities? You know, I meet some of my young men on the street and I say, oh, you're hanging up signs. They say, yeah, you know, Miss Azale, so walk. But why is that your work? Like, why is it that until elections, nobody visits the young people? Like, nobody's on the block looking for those same youth that were there last month, last year, the year before. You know, they're still sitting there on that block. Why didn't you present with the same opportunities? The same way that you could pick them up and we could go hang signs, or we could do, we're working on PEP, so we could do, PEP is a program, which I'm glad that I just brought up PEP, that just rolled out of nowhere. But PEP is a program that's a basic. You know, I know that people feel like it's a privilege, I got a PEP job, but you know, PEP is basic. But like, we're a country that everybody, that's the basic standard, a minimum standard of living that everybody should have work. So nobody should feel like I have to work because if I don't work, I'm not gonna get, if I don't do this, I'm not gonna get a job. Or if I don't do this, there's not gonna be a work for me. Or if I do this, I'm gonna lose my job. If I do this. So I think that we need to set a better example for our young people. And that's what's exciting me about NextGen.
But I think it all comes back to helping our young people to understand that there is no one path to success.
No, there is not.
And I think there is so much pressure placed on our young people to follow this trajectory of doing this, that sometimes, because some of them recognize that, okay, I'm not so good at being an academic, oftentimes that's where deviant behavior starts.
It starts very early in the primary school.
And then this creates a bigger problem for society, because these young people, they just become just on the side, nobody pays them much attention on
disenfranchised by the education system.
And so that is why it's so important for us to revolutionize the education system so that it can be more inclusive, more appealing to others, not just about the academics. I think we really have to pay much focus on that so that we can include all of our young people. We can encourage them to be more entrepreneurs. I see so many young people that are entrepreneurs right now, and perhaps it comes from their household, or maybe it's just their drive.
Hustle and grow, girl.
Their drive. But I think it is important for us to also create an education system that helps our young people to know that you can be successful doing anything that you so desire. So
I agree with that, but I think it also gets down to protecting our young people. I think that it's great when we get to the level where they can access opportunity, but we also forget a lot of our young people are very vulnerable and don't get an opportunity to access the same things as others. And so I'm hearing exactly what you're saying, and also adding to it our holistic development, because a lot of the times we're looking at the education of our children, but then our sports is failing, our culture is failing, our youth is failing. There's no protective systems in the society for the children, and then when they fall through the cracks, we're like, oh, look, you children, you failed. So I think a lot of the times we have to look at the protection of our children in terms of their human rights and their mental health. You know, and we don't realize, how much trauma our children have and what they've been through and what support they need as young people. So I'm so glad that we would be able, that I hope that the advancements, and I imagine the advancements, I know I used to work in the ministry and I loved that team that I worked with. And I know that everybody was really dedicated to advancing our women and our children and protecting our vulnerable society members, and that work will continue under NextGen. Now we've been here talking and talking and talking. We hope that you got something great from this discussion and that it stimulates some of your discussion at home. But we know you didn't really come here for us. You really came here for the grand virtual launch, and that's very exciting. Savannah, tell them what they can expect to see this evening.
Well, I think the name is self-explanatory. It's the launch of your full slate of the St. Kitts-Nevis Labour Party NextGen team. They will introduce themselves and let you know what they intend to do for you. They are here to work for the people, and I think you're in for an exciting night. You will see the full slate of candidates in splendor tonight.
Yes, it's going to be very exciting. So for those of you who have been waiting to hear from your candidates, this is your chance. This is the official launch. Many of you already know all of the candidates. You've been seeing them in your communities for a few years. Their voices over loudspeaker. You've seen them on Facebook. You've heard them on the radio. So it might not be your first time, but this is the official launch of the St. Kitts-Nevis Labour Party. Thank you for joining us, and continue to enjoy your evening. Keep on watching.
Labour is visionary. Labour is leadership. Labour is next gen. Labour is red and ready for Election Day. On Saturday, May 23rd, we start our official virtual grand campaign launch at 8 p.m. live on Facebook, YouTube, Freedom FM, and Kiss FM. Get ready to rally behind your candidate and be prepared to vote for the hand. A vote for Labour is a vote for you. It's all about you.